Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Scott Soto from Soto, Sons of Apollo, and all the other things you might know me from. You are listening to Sonic Perspectives.
You promised to love till time does us part. So I will stop the hands of time. Some things you can't deny or understand. But I'll kiss away your fears.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to yet another interview here at Sonic Perspectives. Joining me in the call today, I have the guy holding the absolute record of most interviews done for us, straight from Toronto, Canada, Mr. Rodrigo Altaf.
Hello, hello. Glad to be here, guys.
And for the first time in a call, I have the pleasure to introduce one of our most constant and solid contributors. And I know I probably will be butchering his last name. Here is Mr. Robert Cavoto.
That was perfect. And thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, you all might be wondering why so many of us here on this interview. Well, the truth to the matter is that our guest tonight is a true legend, and that is not by any means a hyperbole. From heavy metal to funk to AOR, his name is praised throughout the music industry as one of the most influential artists of the 21st century. So let's welcome the one and only Jeff Scott Soto.
Hey, what's
Hey, Jeff.
happening? This is great. It actually takes 3 people to interview me now.
Yeah.
It's the caliber.
Uh-huh.
I guess because I've done so many albums, I guess you guys could just swat at me from all sides.
Yeah.
We're planning to shoot at you from all angles.
And that sounds kind of dirty.
Okay, let's set the record straight from the very beginning. Jeff Scott Soto. In my mind, and I know that probably Rob and Rodrigo feel the same way, you are the voice of the 80s hard rock and metal. These ears of mine tell me that you are up there with the Ronnie James Dios and the Bruce Dickinsons of the world. So before proceeding, I want to personally express our gratitude to you for your absolutely fantastic work for over 4 decades. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I mean, the only thing I can say about that is I wish I had even a fraction of those 2 guys' wallets. Because I've done a lot of records. I've been in a lot of bands. And man, if I only got paid for half of this shit, I would be a happy camper.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So now the first thing that I want to ask you is this. How is that a man who clearly has no soul? Because let's face it, you obviously handed it over to the devil in order to obtain that supernatural talent of yours. How can you sing so freaking much of it? Dude, you sound exactly the same after 40 years of doing this, and you can't change my mind about this.
My voice has changed a lot, and thank you for that. But my voice has definitely matured. It's definitely dropped. I mean, I can't sing what those Yngwie things that I did when I was 19 years old. If I could, believe me, I would. But and this is, to be honest with you, this is one of the reasons why even a band like Soto or Sons of Apollo it's more designed where my voice lives now. When I do stuff like Wet, it's a lot of fun to do. But realistically, this is one of the reasons why we don't tour. We probably would be able to tour and do more shows, but I know I can't sing this stuff live every night. I could do it maybe for a show or half a show, and then my voice will just be gone because this is the old Jeff. That range and the kind of melodies that we do is the old Jeff, and I certainly don't have that anymore. But I do have a different way of approaching my voice, and of course I try to keep everything in perspective. Speaking of sonic perspectives, I try to keep my voice in perspective of knowing that I want to keep doing this. I want to continue touring. I want to continue performing live. And the only way to do that is I have to be realistic of things that I know I can pull off, which is, yeah, and you'll hear the difference in my voice. You'll hear that it's easier for me to sing more power and raspy than it is to sing clean and softer and have the more softer nuances. So yeah, I mean, I can still do a lot, but I can't do a lot. It's at the same time of the past.
You know, Jeff, this is Rob Cavuto. How are you today? It's a pleasure
I'm
speaking
good,
with you.
man. Thanks.
Big fan of yours. You got 85 albums under your belt. When you're home alone and you're singing to yourself or in the shower, what is your sweet spot? What do you like to sing the most? Where do you go and where do you gravitate towards?
I think that ship has passed. That ship has sailed as far as singing at home or singing in the shower. I'm doing so much work these days and years and months. At this point, when I can take a break, I take a break. I rarely do any singing in the car, or if I do sing along to something, I do it under my breath, kind of falsetto-y and kind of softly because I truly am I'm doing so much work, and I shit you not. I'm not saying it just for the sake of check out my discography. I do so much work that I look for any chance that I possibly can to not sing, to take a break and to rest it up and kind of keep it fresh and ready for whether it's touring or whether it's the next project I'm working on or the current project I'm working on. I'm constantly working, and I want my voice to sound as pure and fresh as I need it to, even if it's something that it's supposed to sound a little more rough around the edges. And I'll get to that a little bit about the new album, Wide Awake in My Dreamland, in regards to what COVID did in terms of delaying the release and allowing me to actually readdress some things. Because when I sang those songs initially, my voice was toast, man. I was fried. 3.5 months of touring, knowing I was going into another year of touring with Sons of Apollo, and I literally had 15 days to sing 11 songs, and I rushed it. And the one thing that COVID allowed me is not only to delay the release, which meant we could turn the album and the masters in later. It gave me the chance to kind of reassess things and readdress things that I knew I would hate later. I couldn't listen to later because I just didn't sound as strong as I wanted to. So yeah, overall, kind of to round up what we're talking about here, I don't really listen to a lot of music in between my downtime because I'm always in the middle of writing or always in the middle of a creative process for something else. Or I'm so burnt out, I just want to sit back and listen to some Howard Stern or an audiobook and get away from music.
Fair enough. Jeff, it's
Great
Rodrigo here. And speaking
Hey.
of sounding fresh, and of the new album, Wide Awake in My Dreamland,
Yeah.
I've been listening to it nonstop for the last few days. And what caught my attention on the first spins is how catchy the choruses are, much like all of your releases. And what's your secret with writing so many memorable lines like the ones in Love's Blind, for example?
Well, in general, I feel like my forte is more about melodies, more about lyrics, because I stopped writing music as far as my own solo stuff. Probably the last thing I did, like where I was writing music behind the songs that I was recording for my solo records, was the Lost in the Translation album back in 2004, 2005. That was the last time I sat down and wrote music and then wrote the lyrics and melodies. I'm a limited guitar player. I'm a limited keyboard player. And I find the strongest material comes from when I'm working with people who are masters of their craft, masters of their instrument, and they're good songwriters, because you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to get ideas and songs and riffs that you don't normally would think of because you can't play them. I can't sit here and come up with a cool, badass riff and hum it to somebody. I can, when I hear it, I know, man, that's badass. Let's complete that. Let's finish that. But I'm not one to sit there and add to the writing process when it comes to writing the compositions, when it comes to writing the songs. So that being said, I truly have been able to just hone in on my forte, and my craft is completing the songs. You give me a kind of a black and white visual or canvas of an outline, and I'll fill in the colors. And I guess that's why I've learned I'm not saying I'm a great songwriter, but for me, what works for me is the amount of work that I've done through the years, doing the trials and errors, the listening back to all the things that I've done and going, that could have been better, or if I did that now, I do this now. And it's everything with the experience that comes from doing so many songs through the years. But when it comes to actually writing songs, I truly at my best when I let the actual the songs, the music part of it be written by others, and then I come and complete the picture.
I see.
I'm pretty sure that you have been doing a lot of interviews for the promotion of this new album.
Oh, yeah, no.
I'm gonna actually ask about something that is probably not that common. As a graphic designer myself, I admire the uncommon look of the album cover, and at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm kind of intrigued about it. So, who
Mm.
was behind the design? What's the meaning of it all? And how, in your opinion, this artwork aligns with the album title?
All three Soto albums. I've been working with a graphic artist named Gustavo Sazes. He's a Brazilian guy who lives in Portugal now, and I got introduced to his work through the Gus G albums that I sang on. That he's been working with Gus G, I guess, on Firewind and also his solo albums, which I thought looked great. I never looked at the artwork saying I want to work with this guy. It wasn't until Edu, my drummer from Soto, and also playing drums on this album, he said, "Man, I think we should change it up and try to find somebody with a different look, because I usually work with the same people for so many years. I kind of become a creature of habit with the people I work with." And maybe it's a good thing for me, but maybe it's not a good thing for growth and trying new things. So it was when Edu came to me. He says, "Man, you gotta check out Gustavo, and I think we should give him a run and see what he could come up with." The best thing about Gustavo is I can go to him with nothing. I could say, "Man, I have zero idea what I want for this concept for this album," and he'll come up with something that just blows me away. I loved what he did with the first two. Soto records. Edu had a little more of an idea what he wanted with the last one. And again, Gustavo brought that to life. For Wide Awake in My Dreamland, I didn't want just an album cover with my face on it. I didn't want just he did the Retribution album, the one that came before. And all it was there was some cool graphics and my logo and blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to be on the cover this time because it's a solo record. I should be on the cover somehow, but I didn't want just a regular photo or to tweak or to distress a photo. And I wanted something that truly personified a nightmare, kind of a nightmare situation that was like, what is this? This looks like some kind of crazy dream. And it's exactly what he brought. At first he said, "Well, when you send me the photos, I'll be able to kind of find a photo that fits that bill." And when he saw the photo of me just screaming, I was leaning back, holding my mic, and he saw that photo. He goes, "Man, I'm going to run with this one." And originally making that photo, I was lying down. It's kind of funny because it on the album looks like I'm leaning back, like I'm doing one of those David Lee Roth back bends.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually lying down on a bench holding my mic stand, and he tilted it horizontal or vertically or horizontally, whichever one it is. And from there, he was able to create a visual of like some crazy dream, like some kind of Alice in Wonderland kind of dream of I'm screaming out of a dream. And that's exactly what I wanted out of this. Again, I didn't tell him visually what I wanted. I just said, I just want something that reflects a kind of Tim Burton crazy nightmare dream kind of escape thing, and he pulled it off.
Yeah, definitely he did, because that is exactly what transpired when you first look at the album cover.
Yeah, and in general, people are thinking that I recorded and named the album this because of COVID, because of the lockdowns, because of 2020. To be honest, that song "Wide Awake in My Dreamland" was written in 2019 in December. The music was written. I wrote the lyrics. I sang it for the first time in January. So before COVID took over the world, my title reflected more what we were already dealing with. The world is always dealing with what the world deals with, but here, especially in the U.S., we're dealing with the separation, the division of people, the social issues, the sexual gender issues, the political, religious. There's so much going on. You can't keep up with it. And it's almost like this can't be real. I must be dreaming, but I'm actually wide awake and dealing with all of this. So now COVID just added another element to this is insane. This is the year we all want to forget.
Definitely.
Very true. Yeah, Jeff, hi, it's Rob again. You know, you've cited Sam Cooke in the past as an inspiration, and I was wondering, with everything you've done in your career, would you ever consider putting out an R&B album or a soul album? Because you really have the voice for that too.
I actually do want to do something like that. I'm doing something right now. I'm currently working on something now. I don't want to say it's reimagined because that scares people, but I'm taking 10 songs that I wrote entirely 100%, like a song like Eyes of Love from my Prism album, Holding On from my Prism album. Some are ballads, some were even acapellas. I did an acapella on the Eyes album that wasn't even registered. It was called Somebody to Love. And it was a short, like minute and a half a cappella thing that I did as a tribute to Sam Cooke and Steve Perry. I took that even and I made a full song out of it. But I'm taking the other songs that I mentioned and I'm doing reimagined versions of them. Like Holding On, I'm doing kind of like an Eleanor Rigby kind of thing where it's only orchestrations and strings and plucked strings and whatever while I'm actually singing the song. So it's giving you a different flavor and vibe altogether, and it's kind of reinventing the song. You know, I didn't want to just do an acoustic version of the songs and say, well, you already have a ballad. Why do you want an acoustic version? So instead I come up like a reimagined version of the song. There's a Talisman song that we did on the Truth album called Your Man, and it's kind of like we went for kind of a nostalgic Freddie Mercury-ish kind of Queenish thing behind it, and it sounds like that's what we were going for. But I took that song and I put it back in its original form and made it sound almost like Boys to Men. And it's more R&B, soul, kind of sexy vibe to it. And that's how I originally wrote that song. And it's cool to actually hear it again in its original form. It didn't work for Talisman at that time. That's why we did what we did to the song. So I'm doing that now. And in some ways, I'm kind of tapping into what you're just saying. These are all going to be my songs. And yes, someday I would love to do like something where it's I'm taking all my idols. I'm doing something like a Motown review of certain tunes, standards or whatever, and do them in that way. But at the moment, I'm too busy doing my own stuff.
It sounds fascinating. I look forward to hearing it time down the road.
It depends. I was planning on actually releasing it. I'm probably speaking out of turn here. I was planning on putting it out maybe in December, just before Christmas, give people like a little stocking stuffer kind of thing. And then I'm thinking maybe that's not such a good idea because my album's coming out this month. Wet's coming out in January. To put something else in between, it's like Jeff Scott Soto overload. And I don't think that's never a good thing.
Bring it. Jeff Scott Soto overload.
But I'm literally one song away from completing it. And then I just have to mix it and get it ready to do whatever I'm going to do with it afterwards. I'm going to self-release it. I'm not going to try to make a big to-do about it. It's basically going to be available for people who follow me on my socials, and you know, it's more of just like a personal thing I wanted to do.
Sounds great. Sounds great. I look forward to it.
Thanks, man.
So, Jeff, if I were to name my favorite tune of this new album, and that probably might change tomorrow, I would say that now is Paper Wings. Can you share any insights about the creation of that specific song?
Well, the only thing I can really say about that one is to discuss the title. It's when I was writing it, clearly the lyric, it was leaning towards the fractured wing, the broken wing kind of thing. And originally the chorus sang the words broken wings, but because I already have a song with Wet called Broken Wings, and we don't need another one after the Mr. Amazing smash hit Broken Wings. Yeah. I didn't want yet another one out there that's just going to be confused with all the rest that are already available, especially one that I've already done with another band. So I was trying to find another word that was adaptable, that would still, I wanted to keep the wings portion, and the whole song was about basically learning how to get through a situation, like basically learning how to fly with a broken wing. But I had to find another word that described that without using the word broken. And when I just looking at just different nouns and different things I could use as descriptions, the word paper fit the best because paper is fragile. Paper can be burned. Paper can be crumpled, torn. It's so fragile that it can easily be just crumpled. But in other forms, it can be actually really hard, and it can actually hurt you. You can hurt somebody with a paper airplane. You can hurt somebody with a wad of paper. So paper can be strong, but it also can be fragile. And I love the analogy of being able to use both of those in the context of the song.
That's awesome. And Jeff, you mentioned that you had the chance to redo the vocals for the album, and also you won't be able to tour it because of COVID. So two consequences of COVID right now, one positive, one not so positive.
Yeah.
In what other ways do you think that this has changed the promotion of the album? I know you did videos, for example, to promote it. What kind of care did you have to take when you made the videos?
Well, for starters, I didn't want to make a big deal about this. I didn't want to do a big announcement about this. But to be honest with you, after the last Soto tour I did in September, I was ready to kind of hang it up. I've been doing solo touring for well since 2002, and then I put Soto together, and that band was touring for about 4 years, and not seeing too much growth, not seeing too much change in terms of audience attendance and interest, and in general, it becomes a struggle to put what I want to do on the road and to do it in a way where it's profitable, where it's not, I don't even care about the profit. I care more about losing money. I don't want to go leave my home and all the things I worked so damn hard and can't enjoy for 2 months or 3 months out of the year and come home with not even half the amount of money it costs to even pay for those things. So I kind of made a vow to myself that I'm probably not going to be touring anymore as JSS or Soto or anything like that. I'm probably just going to be limiting my touring to Sons of Apollo and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, the ones that make the most sense in terms of financial for me, because you got to make a living, you got to pay your bills, but it's a lot of it too, man. I'm going to be 55 next Wednesday. At 55 years old, do I really want to be sitting in the back of a van and sleeping in shitty hotels and sitting backstage in a club that smells and is really loud with a support band that's not really that good? And you just go, man, at some point you gotta find something that makes you happy, that makes you feel more complete as an artist.
Yeah.
So until or unless I see a drastic change in interest in people wanting to come to shows, etc., I don't think I'm going to be touring anyway. So I already made this decision already, and even if things were normal, I would not be going out there and touring to support it.
I understand.
And again, I didn't want to make a big to-do about it. I didn't want to make it look like I was complaining about it or that I was trying to use it as a ploy to, hey, if you want to see me, you're going to have to buy more tickets. So yeah, we're going to give it one more try. I didn't want it to sound like that. I had to make a decision for myself and what works for myself and my family and even my health. So I have to be smart about the future, especially if I want this voice to keep working for the next 20 years.
Yeah, for sure. Totally understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, we need that voice to keep working for the next 40 years, actually. Make them 40, not 20.
Okay. If I can live 40 years, I'll keep singing. I promise.
Of course you can. It's common knowledge that this album of yours comes from a deep collaboration with Frontiers record Swiss Army Knife Guy, also known as Alessandro Del Vecchio. So I was going to ask you how the initial idea, the inception of the album came to be, but I guess I will direct this question to the other person involved in this work as much as you would. Alessandro, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. The joke didn't work very well, but I was silent for like...
Technology betrayed us.
You know what? Joel, you should have said, you know what, Jeff? I love this record, just to test me. You should have said, I love this record. Everything would have been so much better, I think, if you worked with a different producer and a different songwriter. And then that's when I would have opened up and said, yeah, you know what? This was all Frontiers' idea. I didn't want to work with this piece of shit. He's working with everybody. I'm just a number to him. Fuck Alessandro Del Vecchio.
Well, we can always come back and say that.
Okay, thank you.
So, guys, how this album came to be between the two of you? When was the initial seed planted? Who was the one behind the idea?
I'm going to start because Ale wasn't part of this meeting, and I can start here, and then Alessandro can kind of finish it up. First of all, let's go back 15 years ago. I met Alessandro in the studio in Milano when he was tracking the songs for the Edge of Forever album that Marcel Jacob produced. And I had a day off. We were driving through Milano, and I had a day off. Marcel asked me if I would come in and sing some background vocals for the album. Of course, that's the first thing I want to do on a day off is to go into the studio and sing. So this is the first time I met Alessandro, and he's as nice and humble and modest and just the best human being you've ever met in your life then as he is now. I thought all of this shit, playing with all these stars and making all these great records, was going to change him. He's the same dude I met 15 years ago. Now, we fast forward we never really worked together. We've known each other. We've seen each other through the years, backstage, different whatever. And it was a few years ago when Steve Perry was releasing his first solo album in many, many years. Frontiers came to me and asked me what I would feel if to release a for no profit, no money, we're not selling it, just to kind of a welcome back Steve song, one of his songs, but me singing it. Since I was the singer of Journey, it made sense to do a Steve Perry song, not a Journey song, and I wouldn't have done it if they suggested we do a Journey song. So at the same time, I thought, I don't want to sit here and try to compose it and come up with the background track. As I was talking about earlier, I'm limited in my skills as a keyboardist, as a guitar player. So I didn't want to come up with something that just sounds like it was done by a fourth grader. So I reached out to Alessandro because I know how great he is. And I know, especially we've all seen his body of work the past years has just been phenomenal. I knew he would be the perfect person to get involved in doing something like this. He was the one that suggested. He said, first of all, absolutely, I'm so in. I'm without even thinking twice. But he was the one that suggested the song "What Was," because it was a non-hit, it was a non-single, and it wasn't even released on any other Perry records. It was only on the Greatest Hits album as a kind of like an unreleased song. So we thought that was a perfect idea. It was a perfect song. It's stripped down, easy to kind of re-record or reimagine. And he gave me this masterful track that it was so easy to sing over. He mixed and mastered it, sounded amazing, and we put it out. So that was the first time we actually worked together. Now we go to last year at the Frontiers Rock Festival. I had a meeting with Frontiers Records the day after this show that I did there. And Alessandro was already, brought on to mix the live album. They asked me what I felt about working with Alessandro on the new solo album. And I thought it was another amazing idea because, again, as we've seen his body of work, I knew he would be able to bring me something that I haven't already done yet. This freak of nature not only wrote all the music, not only wrote most of the melodies on the album that I put my lyrics to, but he played everything in the studio. That when he sent me these songs, I had to sing to the demos because, as I said, I had a small window of time to knock out my vocals while he was building the tracks with Fabrizio and we're waiting for the real drum tracks from Edu. I actually sang my lead vocals to his demos so I could send them the vocal tracks and he could finish up the rest. Alessandro gets 98% of the credit for this album outside of the lyrics because he did everything on it. Everything you hear, the nuances to the ideas of how the songs sound to the intros, that's 100% Alessandro. All I can say is this guy is a freak of nature. I truly don't think he's human. I think he's a robot that someone plugs in every night to recharge and they put a little oil to keep the arms moving. Because I've never seen, he's by far surpassing me on how much fucking music you can record in 1 year and how many people you can work with. He's just throwing me under the bus. Fuck you, Alessandro.
well, I gotta say, first of all, I was very excited when we did the Steve Perry track, just because after years of knowing each other, that could be just one thing that we did together, just the two of us.
Right.
And when the idea of doing the solo record together came up, I was like, yes, finally, yes, because that's what I was waiting for all these years. I was like, I'm working with everyone and I'm not working with Jeff. What's wrong with me? But then when we started, all I wanted to do, to me is I'm not starstruck, but when I work with somebody that's been part of my growth musically when I was younger in my learning years, I always
and tell everybody you used to masturbate to my photos too, right?
Yeah, sure, still today. And
you're sounding like a fun boy there, Alessandro.
I am. I almost am. With Jeff, I am. but I want to make music that relates to the history, and I just don't want to make an Alessandro Del Vecchio record with Jeff Soto on vocals. I want to make something that's relating to the history of the artist, and make it sound like with a new twist, but also with that sort of feeling that you have when waiting for a Soto record, and you want to hear those kind of melodies and those atmospheres. And I just pushed the envelope on maybe some of the influences that we both share, like Queen or Kansas or stuff like that's not so usual for other artists. And that's how the record came up.
Let me add one little thing before we go on to another subject here. That's one of the most common things I'm being asked when I'm doing all these interviews is, how did you know Alessandro was the one that would work for you? When did you realize the chemistry was there, et cetera, et cetera? Ale told me, he didn't even tell me. He sent it in the video clips that we ended up using to make the making of the album, where he's explaining his process in making this record for me was that he wanted to take the best of what he feels represents my voice to him and the things that he loves about my voice and my career to him. Now, if he told me that, if he verbally said that to me, I might have been a little worried. I might have been like, I'm not really interested in just plagiarizing some things that are already out there. Maybe we should have a different approach. The fact that he didn't tell me this, and I'm sure he's going to remember this for the future when he's working with other people, that you don't say something like that to them before you start writing for them. You say to them after, if that's your approach. The fact that he was just sending me song after song after song that just, oh my God, this is great, this is great. I didn't even stop to hear, well, this sounds like it could have been Talisman. This sounds like it could have been on my first solo album. This sounds like it could be, it's a derivation of I'm a Viking from the second Yngwie album. I didn't hear those kinds of things until I actually heard that statement. And I wanted to make sure that statement remained in the making of video, because when you listen to the record, you are going to hear these things that Alessandro found or felt were very important that you hear on a Jeff Scott Soto record. And from that, he ridiculously overcame and succeeded in his master plan there in making this record for me, because as I said, there's certain songs, even on the making of, you'll see me talking about certain songs like, this sounds like it could have been Talisman. This sounds like, the only one that threw me for a loop is the one that sounded like it could have been ABBA. I'm like, what is he thinking? But you know what? It actually turned out to be a great song because of that, because it was something that it didn't just hit me right from the get-go that, oh yeah, I know exactly what to do with this. The chorus, I'm like, it's so busy. There's there's so much going on. The vocals literally have to go, you have to hold whole notes. When one of my things when I'm writing music, if it's really busy underneath, you got to sing simple stuff. If it's really simple, you can write busy stuff. Busy doesn't work over busy. So I said, I'm just going to follow the melody, and that's how I came up with the choruses of that particular song.
That's awesome, the way you guys learn to work together, and I think there's a learning curve there, right? To a certain extent.
Well, the best thing was, and this is what I absolutely love. I love about this record, and I love about working with Ale. He let me be me, and I let him be him. I didn't say, I don't know, Ale, maybe try this and try that. And he didn't say, hey, Jeff, I like what you did here, but try this and try that. We basically just did what we did. Boom, I love it. Boom, I love it. And there was I don't think there was
second guesses or.
Yeah, it's not only second guesses, but like there was no real contention of this could be better. We respected each other's space. We stayed in each other's lane. We stayed in our own lanes, and everything just flowed with ease. And the same thing, we'll talk about the Spectre album. It's exactly the same thing. We wrote the entire record. Ale wrote all the music. I did all the lyrics, and everything just flowed. It's like we've got this connection and chemistry, like we were separated at birth.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and for me with Jeff, it all comes down to I when I send the songs, I was expecting something from Jeff, so I wasn't worried. I had no worry. I was just working on the music because I knew that what I would get back would be like record ready, mix ready, perfect to the songs. Because somehow while we were working together, we felt that we had kind of the same, I don't want to say musicality, but we were like, feeling the songs the same way. So every time that I was getting the vocals back, I was like with a smile on my face, because it sounded like I would have want them to sound, but also everything was so falling into the right place, right, by instinct. So there was no like going back and forth. Sometimes it's a struggle, because you're kind of vibrating at a different energy and frequency with the artist, and you don't know where to go. But somehow with also on the Spectra record, even more, because we knew each other better.
Exactly.
It's such a smooth process that you kind of get spoiled, and you go like, oh, well, that's how it should be every time. But I guess the music, the outcome and the music that we did together, we're doing together, kind of translate that. It sounds like very natural. It's flowing, and it's fitting perfectly. Both of us. Obviously, it's Jeff's record, so I'm just I'm part of it, but I'm not saying, well, it sounds like an Alessandro record at all. But it kind of sounds like, the two of us working together with mutual respect and a very natural, instinctive flow that's very evident in the songs, in my opinion.
I agree. And speaking of the Spectra thing, I actually scolded Alessandro. There's one song on that record. I'm like, you motherfucker, why didn't you give that one to me while we were writing my album? It's a great ballad on the Spectra album. I love so much. And even when I was singing, it was like, oh, I want this song.
I remember.
And Alessandro's response is, brother, we're going to have so many more of those. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And guys, speaking of different work ethics, I have a question for Jeff, because you made several records with Frontiers Music, and recently you also worked with Inside Out Music for Sons of Apollo and Soto. Each record label has their own clauses and financial implications and different kinds of promotion and different types of music they address. How do you find yourself adapting to the different work ethics and styles of each record label?
Overall, we're all in it for the same thing. When it comes to the business side of the labels and all that, there is a business side to it. The big difference between those two labels is I've been with Frontiers for 18 years. We're going on almost 2 decades working together. So not only do I have that factored in, I was pretty much one of their first artists. I was there from the inception of the label. So I've seen them grow. I've seen the changes. They've seen my changes as an artist, as I'm trying to challenge myself and try new things, etc. And so the respect has to come from, number one, their vision of what they expected out of me, what they wanted out of me, and also their investment and what they put into me for all these years. Something like Soto doesn't work for Frontiers. That doesn't work for the design of what Frontiers has been focusing on. And I hate using my name in third person. That's not their focus as Jeff Scott Soto. That's why I had to find another home for Soto. Actually, we have found 2 homes for Soto. Frontiers is not interested in me reestablishing or rebranding or coming up with a new version of myself. They want the majority of what I've done with Frontiers is hard rock, melodic rock music. And so it's easy to navigate what they want, what they expect. The same as it's just as easy to navigate what somebody like a label like Inside Out expects. Inside Out's more of a prog label, and I don't even think there'll be another Soto record with them. That was more of a, I don't want to say mercy signing. It was more of like, we did well together, and I know you want to do your Soto thing, so let's give it a shot. Let's see if let's help you out, kind of thing. But I need a little more of a commitment from a label, and I think they would expect more of a proggy sound if I were to continue with them. And I don't want to change the direction or the ideal of Soto just because of the label, as much as they don't want to change us. We have to respect one another. So as Soto moves into the future and maybe have to find another home or do it independently, at least with Frontiers, I know where I know it's there's an old saying about when you're a hired gun, when you're a musician for a band like Kiss or Bon Jovi, when if you replace Richie Sambora or Ace Frehley or any one of the original characters, and you're just even Journey, for instance, like Arnel Pineda, the saying goes, know the gig, keep the gig.
If your buddy Derek would know. Derek Sherinian.
So if you know how to present yourself, you know how to give what's expected of you, you know how not to make waves, not to be a diva, not to trample down like a spoiled little kid. That's when you get the respect, and that's when you get to continue doing what you love doing. And I guess it's worked for me. It doesn't work for other people I work with in the past. They need to stamp their feet and be complete idiots.
Right. I have an idea who you're talking about, but let's move on.
No, you don't.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Alessandro, hi. You're a tremendous songwriter, and I've enjoyed your music throughout the years, listening to so many different bands. But I have to say, this is one of my favorite collaborations of yours with Jeff. And I was wondering, what I loved about the CD was the wide range of musical diversity in the songs. How was that the goal of this, to be very diverse? And tell me about the importance of having diversity on a CD like this.
Well, to be honest, I didn't plan that. When I sat down, actually, I didn't even know. I had a blueprint, but I didn't have, like, let's make it more, heavy or more melodic. All I wanted to have was a great set of songs. So I was trying to just write naturally what was coming to me in that moment. Actually, like a song like Without You, which is in my opinion one of my best songs, and luckily it's on this record. It just came out because I wanted something with that atmosphere, and I just sat at the piano and wrote the song. But but at the end I didn't know where I was going. Basically, it's always like I follow my instinct. It's more like in the moment. I tried with the arrangements to keep the every song like as fresh as I could, so that the record could sound cohesive, but also like diverse in some way, organic from start to end. Honestly, this record is what it is because we didn't plan that much. We didn't go like, oh well, we need 2 ballads. Actually, even like Without You is not it's typical not ballad.
Right.
It's not even like the typical ballad. So the record already starts with something that's unusual. It's a record without a proper ballad.
Yeah.
We have fast songs, but we don't have super fast songs. So it's more. I don't know. It's I don't see the record from that angle. I see the record as honestly like a great collection of great songs with a great message in the lyrics and kind of deep meanings, but also like very positive. And it's a good combination between like deep music and very uplifting lyrics and melodies, and that's how I see it.
I really have to, since he's talking about Without You, I really have to focus on this, on a couple things here, because of course it's asked of me why this song, if it's the only video I'm doing, why not more of an up-tempo song or something that might represent the album more? To be honest with you, this song couldn't represent the album anymore as far as the standout track. And for personal reasons, as I already told you that Alessandro was really trying to dig into what he loves about my past and the things he loves about my voice. With this one, he really dug into one of my biggest influences, which is Queen. Or even in general, that song, it's got more of a 70s vibe to it, more than it does it doesn't sound like a ballad to me, more than it does like a majestic, epic song, like something that just has majesty and it really steps out like an epic to me. And so I didn't want that song just to come out as a single, an audio single. Okay, here's another single and here's another representation. I needed that song to stand out a little more. And this is why when Frontier said because of budget cuts and because of COVID and, we're probably only going to be able to afford and do one video, I said that's the one song to me personifies not only this album, But and I'm not saying this just because Alessandro's listening. I've been saying this in every interview. This song personifies me as an artist. This is one of the biggest grande songs of my life, of my career. And I already felt this in that tune. I already felt this in the decision to make that song the video focus, et cetera, et cetera. But when I'm reading it, before anybody's listening to one interview or hearing one thing I'm talking about the record, and when I see people posting comments saying, this has got to be one of the greatest tracks of Jeff Scott Soto's career, of recording 35 years, over 85 albums, whatever you want to call it, this song has to sit above all this big fucking mountain of music. And I'm so proud of it. That's why that song represents the video. It represents the album. And now I will brag about it till the cows come home, because that song represents Jeff Scott Soto.
And of course, it has that inimitable legato from Brian May that Alessandro conveyed really well on the riff of the song, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, he dug into the elements that song needed, especially to not make it just a power ballad. He made that song sound with all the nice guitar harmony layers and the movements and even the key changes. I remember when he first sent it to me, I'm like, oh my God, this thing is amazing. It sounds like an instrumental. I have no idea what to do on this. So I said, Alessandro, when you write songs, I know usually songwriters, they're putting chords and things together. They're probably in their head, they have an idea of like melody or an idea. I go, I'm going to need your help on this. He goes, to be honest with you, I don't have anything. I didn't write with a map of what the vocals should be doing on this song. But he said, but I'll give you something. And I said, good, because I'm going to need it. And I took what he did on that song and I turned it into the masterpiece it is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And when it comes to lyrical content, Jeff, you can write just about anything from what I've seen. Social commentary, philosophical themes. How do you capture inspiration in your lyrics? And do you have like a scrapbook at hand whenever inspiration comes, or? I
do not have anything like that. The only thing that I can answer on something like that is the song dictates what it's going to be about. When I hear the song, the mood, the atmosphere, the vibe, the feeling I get from the song is what tells me what that song's going to be about. And that goes for everything I do. Without You is most of the songs in the album, especially the songs with the word love on them, are not necessarily about love, about a relationship or a broken relationship or a new relationship. They could be about love for something else or about something else. Love's Blind, for instance, is not about somebody being like a blind love affair or this person doesn't know I exist. Love is blind. It's nothing to do with that. The song is a personal letter to my stepdaughter who was dealing with her normal teenage things that teenage girls deal with, or teenagers in general deal with, growing pains. And it was like my own personal letter to her that I know what you're talking about. I know what you're dealing with. You're going to get through this. Trust me. It's not as bad as it looks on the outside. And everything's going to be fine. It's about finding that inner love within yourself that might be blind from before you can love something or someone else. And that's what that song's about. So I always write in double entendre. That's why I have so many different subjects to constantly write about. I love taking songs, a lyric, and making you think that it's about one thing when it's actually about something else.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Now let's go a little bit down memory lane. And let's speak a little bit about earlier
when Alessandro and I were in prison, when we were prison buddies.
Let's talk a little bit about earlier career experiences. Okay. Jeff, you fronted some band called Jorn a while ago. And being an admirer of Steve Perry and looking back now, how many times did you pinch yourself to see if you were dreaming?
Pretty much only the first gig. It was the first time I did that. After that, I had to put on my big boy shoes and I had to realize how important that gig was and how much responsibility came with that gig. And by saying that, I'm a social drinker. I'm like everybody else. I like to get drunk. I like to have fun. I like to hang with my friends during tours, gigs, etc. With Jorn, I didn't drink even beer. I didn't drink wine. I didn't drink any alcohol. I put all of that down. I didn't talk before gigs. I did everything I could to respect that gig because I wanted to be the best I could. When you're representing that band or a band to that level, that stature, you have a huge responsibility to step up every night. But more importantly, YouTube is, back in the day, you only had to worry about somebody recording a concert and putting it out on a shitty cassette or
Yeah,
a
right.
shitty vinyl bootleg. Now your bootleg albums, your bootleg recordings is called YouTube.
Yeah.
And guess, YouTube is forever. You suck one night, one bad night is going to erase 100 good nights. So that responsibility for being in that band, I had more in the back of my head than I actually realized I was actually in that band. And they still fired me.
Well, let's talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
Well, there's only so much I can say about that because I did sign a contract saying I can't discuss these kinds of things in press or media or whatever. But bottom line is, it was an amazing time. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Even the way it ended, I can't change anything. And when anybody asks me, do I have any regrets in my life, in my career, I say no, because without the bad, you don't know what the good is. You don't know how to make the good last. You don't know how to make the good. You don't know how to appreciate the good unless you have the bad. So as far as I'm concerned, everything about that situation was an amazing growing experience for me, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Wise words, man. Wise words. When it comes to Alessandro's early career, I mean, in your 20s, you're already playing with the likes of Glenn Hughes, Graham Bonnet, Steve Walsh, Ian Pace. You touched on that a little bit before, but it's just amazing the caliber of musicians you worked early on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes. I mean, especially at that time, without the extensive contacts that internet gives today, we didn't have Facebook. We couldn't write directly to artists and propose yourself like we're used to do today. It was just like a coincidence after coincidence, and I was ended up like working with the first one was Ian Pace, and we did over the years like 300 gigs, I guess.
Wow.
And then it was Glenn Hughes, and then somebody else, and then this, and then that. And I remember everyone was like, "Oh, you should move to America because that's where your music can really explode somehow." But I didn't have the money basically and the green card and anything else to just move to America. And I had to make it work over here, but I didn't want to surrender to making music that wasn't my thing. So somehow I made it work. And over the years, I worked with people that I didn't even dream of. Basically, I mean, the idea and the decision of staying in Europe kind of made me the guy to go to for quite some years. And I kind of specialized in doing what I do without competitors, basically. So the idea of staying here just gave me like a wider range of contacts. Just because for years, I was just the only producer, songwriter doing this kind of music over here. So, I mean, especially back then, it was a good move, like a tough move. Like it took longer probably than being somewhere else, but it paid off at the end.
Awesome.
And that it was exactly the moment in which you became a robot, right?
Yeah. I had to.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to actually ask Alessandro a question which relates to the album.
What? What? But you're hijacking our interview, Jeff.
No, yes, I'm hijacking. It's called Hostile Takeover. This just goes to show we're so busy we haven't really had a chance to discuss a few of the parameters of this record, especially this question. And I think it's one that's important. It's a good question to know because I even get asked a lot about this question. It's regarding our wonderful guitar playing on the record. Now, once again, I entrusted Alessandro for this record, especially to finish the album. He told me he had this guitar player he wanted to work with. And normally I would say, well, I'm so used to working with Jorge and Leo, my guy in Brazil, who's also in Spectra. I've got like my legion of guys that I love what they do for my records. But Alex, first of all, when he did all the rhythms and even a lot of solos on the demos. So I kind of knew what he was going for, what he was talking about, and I let him roll with it. I gave him I took off the leash and I said, this is all you. As I said earlier, because of time restraints, I sang all my vocals originally to the demos, to Alessandro's guitar playing, to all his performances. The first time I heard any of the songs with Fabrizio Sgattoni was when we were at the mixing stages. I didn't even hear rough mixes. I didn't hear, okay, I got the drums. Check out what this sounds like with real drums, or check out what this sounds like with the guitar player and the real solo. I was so busy and I was so out of touch. And again, I with the trust in Ali's court, when he finally sent me like the first mix, or hey man, this is what it's gonna generally sound like, I'm like, who the fuck is playing guitar? Now, Alessandro, the question for you that you can actually help me in further interviews when it's asked of me. They're asking how I knew about Fabrizio, and I basically say this is a friend of Alessandro's that he's known, but he never worked with him before. He always said to him, I'm going to work with you on a project someday, and the Jeff Scott Soto album was that someday. Where did you find Fabrizio? What do you know about him as a player? What do you know about his playing styles? Have you seen him perform with other bands? How did he come into your presence that you knew this guy was going to destroy Jeff Scott Soto's album with his amazing playing?
So first of all, I have to say that I'm always with an open radar. I'm always looking for better musicians than myself.
Right.
So in my last 25 years, I've always tried to relate myself to better musicians because I want to be a better musician myself. And in order to do that, you always have to look around you and kind of stick to the great people that you find. So Fabrizio, as a brother, who's been a vocal student of mine, but we're talking about like extremely talent running in the family. Like his brother is an amazing singer. And we met like, I guess, 10 and more years ago. And we kind of stayed in touch, but I only knew Fabrizio's brother. And Fabrizio's brother was always like, oh, you should hear my brother. He's such an amazing guitar player. So one day they gave me a CD and I was like, what? Where have you been hiding for all these years? And he was like, well, you know, he comes from the south of Italy, which is a very tough land for rock and roll. And we kept in touch, and I happened to work in their hometown for 5-6 years, and we became close friends. And one night I saw them play, and I was mesmerized by Fabrizio's playing, like a giant on guitar in this little town, lost somewhere in the south of Italy. And I promised to him and to myself to find the right record to have him play on. And when we started to work with Jeff, I knew that I needed some kind of a new blood in the equation, just to have more, you know, like the new guy fire, like, I don't know, Zakk Wylde, first record with Ozzy, that the kind of fresh approach of somebody that's not used to be in the studio, that's like challenged to play at a higher level without having been there before. And Fabrizio, unfortunately for COVID, Fabrizio couldn't come to my studio, so we had to do like online sessions. But I knew that he could totally get to that drive and that fire that we needed for the performance. And I remember he sent the first solo, and I was like, wow, I mean, how can somebody that's not known play so good? And so right to the songs, like he's a master in understanding the harmony and where to go.
Right.
And I gotta give Fabrizio all the credit for like that super extra touch that we needed for the songs, because I mean a solo or guitar parts over songs that are already written and arranged are just the icing on the cake. But when the icing is so good, it totally changes the vibe, the groove, the drive. and the solos are like a testament every time. It's like it's a statement of guitar majesty.
Yeah.
And and honestly, I was blown away, even if I knew that he could pull it off like perfectly, but I was blown away.
And when I said it on the making of video, it was exactly that. When I started listening to the album from soup to nuts, as we say, you open your dinner with your bowl of soup and you finish it with a cup of nuts. When I was listening to everything from the first time, and I could not believe that this guy personified all of my favorite guitar players into every solo. It's almost like I sent him, hey, on this one, can you do this? And this one, would you try this? Without saying a word. He spoke through the guitar solos, and to me, I can't hear this record any other way than with any other guitar player. He truly, I'm at a loss for words. I truly am. And one of the things, the only reason I wanted to address this question is because, Ale, I've worked with some of the greatest and biggest guitar players in the world, and even currently one of the most amazing guitar players in the world, Bumblefoot. To be able to find somebody that's going to be able to make a statement on my record while I'm still in the midst of the height of my career. I'm not at the end of my career. I'm at the height of it. You absolutely crushed it. You succeeded, and then some in getting this guy to play on my record.
Thank you. That was my mission.
All right, guys, we can go now. Good night.
Nope. There's still a little bit more to go.
All right, I'm going to keep asking Alessandro questions. So, Ali, that vegan dish...
No, damn it. We are the ones with the questions.
Hey, Jeff, you have a great sense of humor. Talking with you today, it's so enjoyable, and you're very insightful, and you seem very honest. So I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Did you ever audition for a big-name band that maybe you didn't get the gig, and can you share that info?
No, I didn't. Let me see. I'm trying to think of... I don't think, no, because for like Journey, for instance, I didn't audition. I was already in a band with Neil Sean, and I got it based on the fact that he knew I could sing that catalog, and all the rehearsals and the jams of doing Journey songs. He knew that I could step up and do it, so I didn't really audition for Journey. Actually, you're probably going to be shocked about this one, and I don't even know if they wanted to be known. I don't know if they wanted as public attention. Sons of Apollo. I didn't audition for Sons of Apollo. I was appointed the singer for Sons of Apollo without having done any songs, without hearing what we sound like together. But it was the early stages of it when I got the first versions of the songs. I think they weren't even recorded yet. They were just still at the infancy stages. I like the confident, cocky son of a bitch I am, decided, well, I'm gonna jump ahead here, and I'm gonna put some vocal ideas, and I'm gonna give these guys what I'm gonna do to these songs before they're even done, just to show I'm Jeff Scott Soto. I can write to anything. Not quite like that. I'm adding bravado to it that doesn't need to be. But to be honest with you, it kind of bit me in the ass, because I was going in with the approach originally with Sons of Apollo. What would this sound like? What does a band sound like that has Mr. Big, Winery Dogs, Dream Theater, Yngwie? I basically came up with ideas that sounded like a conglomeration of all the components of the band. Guns N' Roses. I tried to throw in what I thought they were going for, or what they were wanting to go for, and I bit myself in the ass, or shot myself in the foot by doing this, because not only did it took them a few days to get back to me when I sent them the original demos, but the news came back. You know what, Jeff? I don't think this is going to be right. We played these ideas to the label. We talked amongst ourselves, and I don't think you're the right one for the band.
Wow.
Now, I can talk about this now but back then I was beyond distraught. I was more bummed about this than being fired from Journey, to be honest with you. And what I decided to do, I took matters into my own hands in terms of, I don't care who they're looking at. I don't care who they're going to find as their singer. I want them to hear what I could do to this stuff. I want them to hear, I'm going to stop thinking too hard. I'm going to stop thinking about what what I think they want out of this, and I'm just going to put my own stamp of what I think the song should be like without adding all those other components. In other words, I forgot that Mike Portnoy and Billy Sheehan and Bumblefoot and Derek Sherinian were in this band. And I decided to take these pieces of music and be Jeff Scott Soto on these pieces of music. I took the two songs, Signs of the Time and Alive, and pretty much verbatim, note for note, what you hear on the final records is what I did on those songs that made them go, oh, hang on a second. Hey, Jeff, welcome back to the band.
So it worked.
It's one of those freak situations. Like I said, I can talk about it now because everything worked out, but that's the only one I can actually answer your question to solidly in terms of I lost that gig because I thought I was doing something that they wanted out of it, and I was doing the actual opposite. I won that gig back because I stopped thinking too much, and I just became me, and I stole it back. And
Wow.
I'll give 1,000% of that credit to Portnoy because he's the one that brought me in, and he's the one that fought for me to stay in. And he kind of felt like, I know Jeff is the guy. I know Jeff is the guy. And they were looking at other people, and he just knew that I was the singer of that band from his heart of hearts, and I didn't let him down. I stepped up, and I gave them what they were expecting to hear from the beginning, and the Sons of Apollo sound was born.
I actually saw that tour where Mike saw you from the sidelines when you opened
Right.
for Winery Dogs in Rio, years of 2016.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jeff, we know how a gruesome touring schedule can be dangerous for a singer's voice and how rest is important. However, staying too long without exercising the vocal cords is not ideal either.
Right.
How are you finding now that balance, now that there are no shows, and keeping in shape from a vocal standpoint?
Let me see. I wrote down like a little journal of. A second. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah. Since I've been home. Oh shit! It's missing a lot. Since I've been home from the canceled Sons of Apollo's tour, I'm missing at least another 25 songs. Add this to 95. I've done about 140 songs in the past.
Jesus.
8
What?
months. That's
No
how.
rest whatsoever.
There's no need to rest. I'm resting by not going out there and running on a stage and having to talk to fans and laughing with the band on the bus afterwards. That's how I'm resting. In
Okay.
between, when I'm sitting at home, I can spend 2 or 3 hours in the studio, and that is truly resting my voice. So I have done easily quite a few albums worth of material since I've been home. When you add all the quarantine videos, when you add all the sessions I've done, when you add the Spectra thing that Alessandro and I just finished, to Wet, to Joel Holster's new album, to another thing that I'm working on that I can't talk about yet, you guys are going to be really excited about when I can talk about it.
Uh-oh.
I've done a lot of work.
Glad to hear that. So no, absolutely no rest.
And you know, it's funny because when at the beginning of the year, because I was so, man, we did the Soto tour in September of last year. I came home from that with just enough time to change over my bag and go hit the TSO tour for 2 months. I came home from TSO on December 31st. I rested for 2 days, and I dove straight into the studio to start knocking out the vocals for Wide Awake in My Dreamland, because I only had 2 weeks to do it. And we were doing the preparation for the Sons of Apollo tour. At one point I stopped, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm fried. I'm tired. And I told my wife, I said, I wish I could just have the year off and just stay home and not tour. Well, guess what?
Here
You
it
got it.
comes.
Shit. It's my fault. So this year off of touring has certainly allowed me to rest. You hear it in my voice. When you hear the new Wet album, you're going to hear so much more clarity than I've had in years. When you hear other things that I'm working on, my voice has more dynamic now because it's so rested. I'm able to do the things that I used to be able to do when I was younger, even though I'm trying to stay away from the high singing. I don't want to be that one trick pony guy that could just sing high anymore. I want my voice to be doing interesting things. And that's what I'm able to do now with all this rest.
Going back to the album now, because these guys talk too much. My God. This is an anecdote.
Longest interview ever.
Yeah, well,
Well, yeah, whose idea was to put Alessandro in the mix? Come on.
I don't know. It wasn't mine.
Come on.
This is an actual anecdote about the first time that I heard about the album. I was at a rehearsal studio here in Miami where Alessandro was playing keyboards for Archangel, a band put together by Frontier Records and led by former Sabotage Zach Steven, who also happens to be Jeff's singing partner in TSO, because Archangel was going to make their live debut on the 70K Tons of Metal cruise. So after the rehearsal was over, Alessandro, aka the Italian robot, stayed there and we were talking for a while, and he was overly excited about the album, an album that he was producing with Jeff, and he even played some beats and choruses from the songs he had on his phone. And at the moment they sounded truly massive, even though probably they were in the demo form. Right. Now that the album is ready to be revealed to the world out there, both of you, how do you feel about it? Jeff, for example, would you say that this stands as your best solo work?
I don't like saying anything's my best. And again, I'm not saying this as an excuse to not answer the question that you're asking me. Everything, and it's the old cliche about every album to me is like children. It's like my new children. But this album is different in the sense that the child that was conceived, I basically handed over to Alessandro with trust and said, raise my son, raise my children. That's what the difference of this album for me is. It's something that came out brilliantly, that I didn't have to oversee, that I did the least amount of work on this record, and I got the best results out of it. That's how I can equate this record. It's the best record in my solo career that I wasn't hands-on, because I've had a lot of great records and a lot of great things sprinkled here and there, but this album in its completion is something I'm so proud of. Normally, I would never, ever, ever give somebody that much control over a solo record like this. And because of that is why that album came out sounding so great.
Alessandro, what about you?
Wow.
How do you feel about it?
Well, to me, with the outflow and outcome of music that I have, sometimes I don't want to say it becomes, business as usual, but sometimes I feel like I'm kind of trapped in a golden cage. Still, it's gold, but still it's a cage. And but this album, we didn't have to send demos to anyone. We didn't need anybody's approval. Right. We just did the record the way we wanted to do the record. We just sent the master, which is a luxury for, like that I don't have every day. And so I'm very proud and kind of, attached emotionally to the record because of that. And because it came out so natural, and it sounds different than everything else that I've done. So I'm never able to say, well, this is my best record, because I'm always trying to do my best record.
Exactly.
Every time I start something new, no matter who I'm working with, I'm always trying to improve and push the envelope and be a better musician, better songwriter, better mixing engineer, producer, whatever. But this record really stands out from anything else that I've done, because the combination of the songwriters is, we both got our personalities, but it sounds very organic when put together. And it sounds, to me, it sounds real, and it sounds like the Jeff Scott Soto record that I want to hear. So I'm like, I feel accomplished by having such a great record. And I honestly love all the choruses, and some of the choruses like Paper Wings or Love's Blind. I always have a smile on my face when I listen to them. And normally I don't go back and listen to records because it makes me, I'm always like, I should have done this. I should have done that. But this record is so positive and so cool that, that I'm like, well, I cannot wait for people to hear it and feel, and hopefully feel the same. emotion that I feel when I play it.
And I'm gonna add to that. I don't want to put any negativity in this conversation. I want everything to be as positive as we've been for each other and with each other. But I was getting some kind of backlash when I first announced that we were going to be working together. Now,
Yeah, obviously.
working with a lot of people, and when you work with a lot of people, sometimes, as he said, sometimes business as usual can it can start becoming, oh yeah, that's predictable. I know what that's going to sound like. Oh, that sounds like a song he did for that album. And people were worried that maybe Alessandro was going to kind of strip away my personality and inject too much of his personality. In other words, like he said, he made sure that it didn't sound like an Alessandro record with Jeff singing on it. He made sure it sounded like a Jeff record, but with Alessandro's touches and with all the things that he was able to put into it. That's going to be a huge importance when people finally hear the whole record, that they're finally going to get away from this bullshit of, oh, Alessandro's producing yet another one. He's working with everybody. Everything's going to start sounding the same. It's all going to sound like Alessandro's records. He's going to finally be able to overcome that, because at some point, and it happens to me when I'm working with a lot of people, all of a sudden everybody's albums or songs sound like Jeff Scott Soto songs. I'm trying to give them the best thing for their songs to bring out the personality and the performance of their songs, not try to make them vehicles for me. This album, Alessandro wrote as a vehicle for me, and it sounds like it, and it's definitely gonna shut people up in typecasting him as, if he's working with somebody, it's gonna sound like an Alessandro record, and he's finally gonna, oh my God, this guy's got different colors I never knew was imaginable, and that's what I love about how this record came out.
Yeah, and that's because we didn't put any. We knew that obviously. Frontiers was expecting whatever melodic record you expect from Jeff, but honestly, the luxury of doing a record without any external I don't want to say
influences,
say it in a bad, but you don't have to make anybody happy but yourself,
right,
until you send the master. So we had those probably 7-8 months of being ourselves with our songs, and just do our best for the songs, and without any external influence, or like you're on your track and you suddenly have to move somewhere else because some kind of CEO or manager is not happy with what you're doing, but you know that your vision is strong, and we got to be grateful, and we got to give credit to Frontiers that didn't even ask for demos. I think I don't remember sending any demo. I think we just sent the roughs of the album.
No,
we already recorded everything.
We sent them. I think we sent them like 3 or 4 songs. And it wasn't because they didn't trust us. They were curious. You guys have been working for a while. We got to hear something. We're so excited. So we just picked a few songs that were still in the demo stages. Well, my vocals were the final vocals. Actually, no, my vocals were the original vocals before I got to redo them.
Yeah.
So they got to hear a few of those songs. Great, guys. Sounds great. Keep going.
Yeah, and honestly, the I still have that email that we got from Serafino and Nick when they finally heard the whole record, and they were like, "Oh my God, thank you for doing such a great record."
Yeah.
That we didn't even have to work on because they got this great record. But honestly, we it's been a very fortunate series of events that made us work at a great pace in between tours and COVID disasters. We still were in the making of the album with great attitude, and we were positive. We're going for our vision, and this is a luxury nowadays. And that's what I hear. I think it really translated into the songs, and that's why I'm very proud of it, because we literally did the record, with some kind of odds, but also with great luxuries that sometimes we take for granted. But we wrote in great freedom. We didn't have to make anybody happy but ourselves, which is a great feeling, especially when you hear the record and the record is done, and you go like, okay, it became real. What we wanted to have became real the way we wanted to have.
If somebody out there is still listening, I mean, Jeff is the one to blame for us going too long today, okay?
Yes.
He is the one to blame.
I'm the one to blame for COVID, for everybody staying home, so now you got to stay home and listen to me.
So to wrap it up, a final question for Jeff. I mean, we have a million other questions, but it's been over an hour and 30 minutes already. So, Jeff, you were supposed to appear at the 21st edition of Pro Power USA Festival this past September, and we all know why that never materialized. You are now confirmed to next year's festival to perform a full set of Queen's renditions. Are there any details you can share with us and our listeners at this point as to what to expect for the set list and such?
Well, have you seen the DVD I did at the Queen Convention?
I have.
It's not going to be that set list. That's all you need to know.
Okay. Yo, buckle up, guys.
Exactly. I have quite a few surprises up my sleeve. And again, because of COVID, because I'm not on tour, having to try to come up with these ideas in the middle of a tour, I've had time to actually start truly thinking about this. And now it's going to be even better than I originally had in mind, because now I know exactly what I need to do to make it that way.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you both. This was a tremendous interview, really insightful, really interesting.
And too long!
I want to thank you both. And of course, Alessandro, I know it's late in Italy. Thank you so much for your time. And to all the fans out there, you're going to love this album. This is a fantastic album. It comes out November 6th. And I know everybody's going to love it as much as I did.
Thank you, man. It means a lot for you guys to all be here. And Ali, thanks for staying up and being part of this. I've said it a few times during these interviews. It would have been so much more fun for us to be able to do these things together. So thank you guys for the surprise of including Alessandro, because it truly made this one of my favorite interviews for this interview cycle for this album.
Glad to hear that, Jeff. Awesome.
To finish this interview, we're going to play one of the album singles, The Excellent Without You, which Jeff acknowledged as the track that represents the essence of this album in the best way, and the track that personifies him as an artist. So folks, get those ears ready for what's coming.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you guys, and thank you, Joel, and it's always a pleasure talking with you, man.
Take care, both of you. Thank you, Alessandro, for staying
Thank you very
alive.
much. Thank you.
And,
It's been amazing.
Go to bed, Alessandro. Jeff, enjoy your
Yeah,
rest
now
of
it's
your
time.
night.
Oh no, he's not going to bed. He needs to get plugged in.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh,
Go.
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
And the oil.
I
It's
forgot
got the
about
oil.
that part. He still got battery for another interview.
Exactly. Good night, guys.
Guys, good night.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Ciao. Good night.
Okay, everyone, thank you for tuning in. And just a reminder that you can check out this interview on many formats: YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Also, please follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe, and see you next time.
You promised to love till time does